Recently, many Dance Moms cast members have been insisting that the competitions weren't fake.
The competitions were not rigged.
The competitions were real. They weren't rigged.
And while some competitions were made up entirely for the show, others existed long before and continued long after the show finished, because production had their ways of getting exactly the results they wanted. Welcome back to my series, Dance Moms Uncovered. In Season 2, Episode 2, Kathy was accused of cheating because her dancer Erica was entered into the competition under the wrong age category. Kathy has recently claimed that she didn't register Erica. Instead, it was a producer who did it. And yet the show made it look like Kathy intentionally broke the rules because she was desperate to beat Abby. Alex, who worked for Sheer Talent, has claimed that the Dance Moms producers tried to get Sheer Talent to change their rules for them. One example was them asking the competition to only award a top 3 rather than a top 5 in each category. Abby agrees that there was some shady activity going on with production at competitions, saying that during Season 5 Nationals she saw Scott Shatsky backstage in the wings talking to the MC.
Was it rigged?
No, never. No. The producers tried. They would want me to change the rules for them, and I always stuck to the same thing. I said, this is how we do our events. And they wanted me to change the top 5 to the top 3 or something like that. And I never did it.
I have never gone to a competition director. I have never been to a judge. I have never
but when you stepped out of the showrunner position, did. And I would see him backstage in the wings like this at the person reading the awards.
I hope that's not the case because, we would lose all credibility.
Well, that's the one I walked out of.
Holly admits that there were times where the mums didn't think that they should have won a competition. She also says that there were other times where they didn't win, but they thought that they should have. Kelly explains that production did so much behind the scenes that they didn't know about, so there were plenty of things that could have been done without their knowledge at the competitions.
There were times we were shocked that our girls won, and we were very vocal about that. There were times, but then also there were times
when they didn't win. We're like, what? Yeah,
long periods of time, and they didn't win.
As far as I know personally, I have no knowledge of them ever being fake. But believe me, production did a lot of things behind our back that we didn't know. So if it was, I had no knowledge of it.
If the results didn't fit the producers' storylines, they would use sneaky editing to make it look like dancers won or lost when they in fact didn't. One of the guests on Back to the Bar, Ed, says that he attended Season 3 Nationals with Elite Dance Studio. He claims that this studio actually beat the ALDC, but it wasn't portrayed this way on the show. Now we know for certain that the ALDC won in the junior group division, but it is always possible that dancers from different age categories could have beaten them in the overalls, and then the overalls just weren't shown on television.
I was there with Elite Dance. I was there, I choreographed or was there, and actually beat you guys. It didn't get portrayed that way.
This wouldn't be the first time that production pulled something like this. In Season 6, Episode 2, the ALDC group, Hungry Like the Wolves, won in their age division and came second overall. But neither of these awards were shown on television. Instead, we just saw footage of another team winning first in the overall division, to make it seem like the ALDC routine didn't win anything. Right from the get-go, the editors were also not strangers to making it seem like dancers were competing in the same age division, when in reality they weren't. Maddie and Chloe weren't in the same age division when they competed their solos in Season 1, Episode 2. In fact, the girls competed on totally different days of the dance convention. Production edited it like this to intensify the rivalry between the two girls, and make it seem like Chloe didn't win anything, despite the fact that we can see her holding a trophy later in the episode. Maddie and Gino weren't in the same age division either when they competed in Season 4, Episode 27. In the production notes for Season 6, Episode 1, we see that BDA was not called to the stage and was almost disqualified because of it. After the awards that day, Jeanette explained to the mums that the judges told her that they had scored BDA higher than the ALDC, and yet the ALDC still won. Melissa has also begun to suspect that production lied about Maddie beating Chloe when they competed the same solo. She believes that Chloe actually won, but the award was then given to Maddie for drama.
I think that they wanted drama, so they first said that Chloe won and then they took it away and said Maddie won. I'm sure Chloe probably won.
On competition days, production had a few tricks up their sleeves to make the kids flustered and more likely to make mistakes on stage. During seasons 1 and 2, the cast would arrive at the competition and only have around half an hour to get the kids ready. Being in such a rush would cause extra drama and meltdowns. Eventually, the mums learned that they could start working on the girls' hair and makeup in the hotel room before they arrived at the competition, so that they wouldn't have to constantly do things at the last minute. This solution almost didn't work for them though, because apparently Scott the producer tried to get the girls to take their makeup off before the competition, so that they could film the girls putting it back on. The mums refused to do this, however, thinking that his intention was simply to fluster them.
So the first season, maybe the first and second season, they would give them like 30 minutes to get ready, and you cannot physically get your hair, makeup done in 30 minutes for a dance competition. So we started doing the hair and makeup in the hotel room. They would get really, really angry, but we didn't really have a choice. They liked when the girls were stressed out, but of course, the moms didn't like the girls to be stressed out, so we got smarter.
They would try to get the kids so stressed out, and then I'll never forget the one day the kids had their makeup done, and Scott said, "You all have to take your makeup off. Yep. Because you have to do it on camera." We're like, "Nope, make us."
Production would intentionally not give the kids their costumes until right before they went on stage. This made it difficult to make alterations, which would cause issues and drama. An ill-fitting costume could send a dancer's mum into a rage, or cause an accident, such as when Kenzie's perfect fit sleeves were too long and she slipped on it mid-performance. We all know by now that during most of the show, the girls would perform their routines twice, once for judging and a second time to get more camera angles. Melissa has recently theorised that one of the reasons why they filmed in this way was because making the kids perform each dance twice doubled the chances of them making a mistake.
They would never, very rarely get the costume prior to the dance competition. This costume was given to her literally probably 10 minutes before she went on stage, and the sleeves were so long. And she did her back handspring and slipped because this was actually here on her hand. So the producers, of course, didn't give Kenzie her costume before, and they like to stress the girls out, in my opinion. Did the producers record the dances twice for the show? Yes. They did twice for the show for angles, because they needed like different angles. But sometimes they used the second dance because if they messed up or something like that.
The Dance Moms producers had a lot of power at these competitions and would demand that the cast and competition employees follow their instructions. Alex explains that the production team would suggest a city where they would like Sheer Talent to host a competition. Sheer Talent would then confirm whether or not they could do a competition there, and if they could, they would have around 10 days to set up the event. Abby says that the producers would ask various competition companies to create new competitions under different names, so that it wasn't as obvious to the Dance Moms audience that they were attending the same competitions over and over. This seems to align with my own research on the matter.
I mean, I would have like 10 days to set up the whole event.
Did you decide on the city?
It was kind of a joint, the production team, they would suggest the city and we would
see if you could make it happen.
Yeah, we will look for venues in that city.
When the network wanted them to do more and more and more competitions, they would make up fake names. Imagine, Believe, to put a different backdrop up, call it something different. It was the same actual rules, regulations, competition, blah, 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 whatever.
Jill has claimed that before the ALDC performed Private Eyes, one of the producers, Jay-Z, promised Jill and Kendall everything under the sun to try and convince Kendall to drop her gun on purpose during the dance. Fortunately, Kendall refused. Several cast members have insisted that when there were no fights at the competition, they were forced to stay in the dressing room until they fought. It got to the point where the mums would just agree on something to fight about for the cameras.
I remember that darn Jay-Z pulled me aside and said, everything under the sun to try to get Kendall to drop her gun. I'll do anything if you have her drop her gun.
And I knew at the end of every competition, those mothers had to stay in that dressing room. We had to stay there until there was a fight.
Yeah.
So the mothers got to the point where, okay, this is what we're going to fight about. Let's just go. Just fight.
And the controlling behaviour continued in the auditorium. Kathy has revealed that she would often receive instructions from the producers via text messages while she was seated in the audience. And Kelly says that when she left the auditorium after Paige confronted Kathy and Anthony, production forced them to come back.
I say in my interview that Paige and I came back because I wanted her to sit in the audience and show the adults that they can't knock her down.
And production made you come back, but go on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, by being stars of a television show, sometimes there was favoritism when it came to the judging and enforcing the rules at competitions. Firstly, Abby's fame allowed her to make demands that other studio owners wouldn't have been able to make. In the production notes, we see Abby threaten to leave competitions unless they get rid of particular staff members that she doesn't get along with. She also managed to get Ed removed from the Season 3 Nationals competition because he hugged Maddie backstage after her solo.
And I said to her, I go, honey, that was beautiful. It was beautiful. You did a great job. Really nice. She came over and hugged me, and Abby, somebody told her or whatever. The next thing you know, the director's coming and telling me I had to leave.
Christy and Kelly have explained that because of their filming, competitions would hold their numbers for them all the time. And Abby says that in Season 1, their team was sometimes allowed to practice their numbers on stage before the competition began, so that the camera crew could find good angles. Despite these advantages to her team, Abby has complained that some of her students got scored higher than they should have been scored, because she believes that the judges played favourites.
So the lighting guys and the camera guys had to know where the entrance, where the exit, you know, where the lights needed to be, where the cameramen needed to be for the routine. So we got to go on that stage and just very quickly run the number ahead of time.
Leslie really is being bossy. She's like, it's time to go, it's time to go, it's time to go. And they're like, we need to rehearse. And I don't think she realized that they held numbers for us at that point.
Yeah. And I think some kids got scored higher than they should have been. Other kids got scored lower than they should have been because people had their favorites.
So what do you guys think? How much influence do you think production had on competition days? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.